Hello and welcome back. So in this video, we're going to talk about discussion, participation, expectations. Um, so as you noticed in the class rubric, right, participation is 30% of your final grade. In a face-to-face or high flex class, that means every class session is worth about 1% of your final grade. Um, and these are not lectures, they're actual interactive discussions. In an asynchronous online class, the participation is held in a written discussion board. So I'm going to talk about both of those two things in this video. So let's handle the traditional stuff first, because the online class discussion, I try to have it set up to be as similar to a classroom discussion. So one type of instructional method is called the Socratic method, to where you are lectured at, you take notes, and you regurgitate that information on some sort of an assessment. It's not really what I would prefer to do. Um, I use something called the flipped classroom instructional modality, where students read or access resource content prior to coming to class, and then we hold an interactive discussion about it. So, what does that look like? First of all, you need to go into content, and let's go to Module 1 required reading. Oh, look, we landed right where we needed to be. So here's required reading Module 1. So for our first module, there are some resources, right? We have a link to an article about tips for online students. Clearly, if you're in a traditional face-to-face class, that doesn't do you any good, and don't necessarily read it for that. We also have a link for you to read all the announcements. If you haven't read the announcements or watched the video to read the announcements, this link should get you to read the announcements. So understanding the content in the announcements is part of the week one pre-knowledge. We also have the link to the How to Email a Professor article, right? So that's in the textbooks and resources, but it's also reposted here because we need it for this week's assignment. And that's all that you have to read. Pretty easy. When you come to class, or whether that be in body or in Zoom, then we'll talk about some stuff. So the first week of class is really working through all the course and stuff, talking about us, ourselves, why we're in the class, what we look forward to, what are the learning objectives, how the class is structured, all of that kind of stuff. These videos are really good for online students and for reference at any rate. So Module 2, let's take a look at that. It's a little bit more typical required reading. So what we have in Module 2 is just one piece of required reading, and that is a segment of Chapter 1 in the book, which is Personal Computer Basics. Okay, that's at this time. There might be other required reading when you get into this class. Remember, this is just a sandbox. I'm constantly modifying the course. So if there's anything else, if there are any links to any articles, any PDFs to download, any videos to watch, do all of that before you come to class, which means Monday is the latest that you should be all caught up on the reading assignments, because um, Tuesday is our first day of class. All right, so Tuesday comes around and we are talking about computer basics, okay? And um, we get into class and I start talking to the class, asking questions. And if I get a lot of no answers, like sometimes students will just stare at me and not say anything when I ask them a direct question. Please don't. It's the weirdest thing. Sometimes there'll be students in the back of the class with their legs kicked out, their arms crossed, their hoodies pulled up tight, and they've got earbuds in their ears. Don't. Don't do that. The whole point of a class is to engage in discussion and dialogue with your peers and with the instructor to learn. It is not to come up and take space. If you're on Zoom, your camera is on, your mic can be muted, but it needs to come off mute pretty quickly when I ask you a question, and I expect you to be able to respond. Now, this isn't like 20 questions where I'm going to drill you with, do you know this thing? And then you have to spit it back out at me. It's not like that. It's like having a conversation. which is what the point of it is. But we can't hold a conversation on a topic if you don't know anything about the topic. And that's where required reading comes in, is you go through all of that material and you'll learn some stuff, hopefully. You might have some questions and you might want to challenge some of the content. So um, I think in module 3, required reading, personal computer basics, talk about file management. And if we're talking about file management in class and in the reading and stuff, um, something an approach or a concept is illustrated in that reading and you just don't agree with it, cool. Raise your hand and let's talk about it. What don't you agree with and why don't you agree with it? Maybe you have a valid point. Maybe you misunderstand something, but boy, that conversation would be cool. So that's what I'm looking for in the synchronous discussions, whether you're there in body or you're there in Zoom. Now, asynchronous discussion is different, mostly because it's written and it happens over a long period of time. But there are two things that you need to be aware of. First, let's get to the discussions themselves. So this is the discussion board. And you can access them like I did through assessments discussion. Here's a list of all of them, or you can access them through the module, drop you right in. So you'll see here the discussion instructions. They tell you to find your topic, find your thread, click on the click here to participate thread title, read the post, respond to it. The one thing you don't do is create your own thread. So if we come down here and we go to say module 2, if you click this start a new thread, whatever you started will be deleted. I'm nice about it the first time in week 1. Anybody that creates their own threads in week 1 will get an email from me that politely reminds you not to create your own new threads, that your new thread has been deleted, and here is the content of that new thread so you can go back and copy and paste it into the discussion board the way it should have been, which is as a reply. Once week 2 starts, courtesy is gone. Instructions should be known, expectations should be known, and any rogue threads that students start are just deleted. I don't tell you I've done it. I don't send you the content. They're just gone. So know that that could happen if you're not paying attention or you haven't read the instructions and are not following the expectations. So in the module, you scroll down past start a new thread and you see the threads that I've created. Sometimes there's one, sometimes there's 2 or even 3. You have options when there are multiple to participate in. Choose what you want to. You can do them all if you want. You can do one if you want, as long as you're participating somewheres. So when you click on this, you can read the post and then you reply to thread. That's how you participate from a technical standpoint. Always click reply to thread. On a rare occasion, there could be a glitch and you could end up with a discussion like these. They don't have any threads. That's because Brightspace doesn't copy threads when it moves content from one shell into a new shell. I have to generate these threads by hand every single time. I don't like it. It's not a good way to run a system, but it's how their system is set up. No matter how many times I've asked them, please fix this, they don't. There's apparently a whole bunch of coding that would go into it that's not worth their while. So instead, we have to do all this extra work and recreate these threads every single semester for every single module. On occasion, I'll get off and I'll miss one, right? And you'll hit a discussion forum that has no threads. Don't make them yourself. Shoot me an email as soon as you see that. Dr. White, Module 3, it doesn't have any threads. Can you please make them for us? That would be the way to go. So, remember, the discussion week goes Tuesday to Sunday. I'm not in there every single week. Sorry, I'm not in there every single day. You guys should be in there quick and often, okay? So if it runs Thursday or Friday and nobody has told me that there were no threads and people are just creating their own stuff, when I finally do find out, they're all getting deleted. So please don't. I'll feel terrible, but I'm going to do it because that's how it's set up. And that's the expectation is you do not create your own threads. All right. Grading. So the rubric for asynchronous online discussion forum looks like this. This is also found in the syllabus. You earn points by the number of days that you post. You can earn up to 10 points by posting 2 or more days. You post fewer days, the points go down. This is because you cannot have an interactive discussion if you only come in on one day. Nobody can engage with you if you're only there once. You have to come in at least twice. 3 or 4 times per week is best so that you can read what's been posted by all of the students and engage with them, and they vice versa to you. If you don't come in more than one day, that can't happen, which is why 2 days minimum in your posting history. Objective participation. This has to do with how many posts you make. All right. You need to make at least 3 posts to earn the full 40 points that are available. You make fewer posts, you'll also have fewer points. Clearly, if you only come in one day, you cannot, oh, sorry, you could. You could post 3 times on a single day. It's not good form, but you could do it. Subjective points. These are my judgment on how well you've engaged with your classmates. Okay. If you're just responding 1 or 2 sentences, a couple of different posts and calling that good, your engagement score is going to drop, right? So while these give guidelines, okay, these are not the only ways that points could be lost, right? When I go in and I see a student who posts 90 minutes, 30 minutes before the deadline out of 6 days in the discussion forum week, and they have an entirety of maybe 10 minutes total in the discussion forums, and their posts are 1 or 2 sentences long. Either it's a single sentence that's a question that's 30 minutes before the deadline. This is not an honest attempt at engagement. This is a blatant attempt to gain points without understanding how the points are really earned. So while it might not say in the rubric, if you make all of your posts 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, or even 2 hours before the deadline, they're like 120 hours or something. Let me do the math real quick. All right, so we have 6 days times 24 hours, 144 hours you have available to post to a discussion forum. And if you wait until the last 1 or 2 hours to try to get all these posts in, you are not earnestly trying to engage with your classmates, and your participation score is going to drop. Even though the rubric doesn't explicitly state it, you're going to get docked major points. So, um, budget your time wisely, come in on multiple days, post honestly in a way that is engaging with your peers. Don't just throw out lavish compliments. Oh, you did such a great job posting that. I'm so happy that you did that. That's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. You can tell somebody they posted well, but tell them why. You can also ask questions, but do it in a way that it's plausible somebody could respond to you, not 10 minutes before the forum is done. So it's really hard to put categorical descriptions on what does and doesn't constitute an earnest attempt at engagement. But I've been doing this for like 22 years, 23 years, and it's obvious to me when I see um, posts that are just trying to earn points and posts that are actually engaging with their peers. Okay, and then finally, last couple of criteria here. We have, oh, I already talked about subjective points. We have reference citation. Reference citation. Yeah, I want you to cite whenever you make a post that includes a statement of fact. That fact has to be come from somewhere. It could come from someplace in the required reading. Great. Cite it. At the end of your post, you just copy and paste the URL. You right, say if you want to get fancy, if you got more than one resource that you're doing, you can just do parenthetical citations where you make your statement, parenthesis one, down below, source one, paste the URL, make more sentences, parenthesis two after something, down below, source 2, post the URL, call it good. I'm not looking for MLA or APA format, none of that stuff. You just need to indicate if there is a fact that has been made where you got that information. None of us are experts in this class. I guess outside of me. I guess I'm an expert. And anything that you state that is not cited is opinion, not fact. And I want to be able to see where you're getting your information from. And I want to see if you correctly understood the source or if you misinterpreted it. Lots of reasons why I want you to cite. Lots of them. Those are just a couple. So if you don't cite at least one source somewhere, it's because you cannot earnestly engage in these class discussions without stating at least one fact somewhere. You have to state a fact somewhere. And then, excuse me, hiccup. Then finally, grammar. If you're using Grammarly, this should be a piece of cake. Just make sure that you're writing the way that a college student would write. Spelling, grammar, punctuation, tone, all of that. That's where this comes in. And that's how you get your grade. Okay? This is the rubric. The key takeaway points for asynchronous online discussion is more than one day, 2 minimum. Posting to multiple people, not just responding to the prompt. This is not an open face tester quiz. The prompt questions are to get the discussion going. I don't expect every student to answer the prompt. How boring would that be? Why would I do that to you? I wouldn't, so don't do it. One, it's lazy, and two, it's not the intent. Read everybody's posts that have been made before you and engage with the conversation that is ongoing. Don't just jump in, read the prompt, give an answer, and call it a day. You will not be happy with your grade if you do that. It's obvious when people do it. So engage with your peers. That's what I hope you take away from this rather lengthy but super important description on how to participate in class discussion. Because honestly, it's 30% of your final grade. Okay? Put some effort into it. And let's have some fun and have some engaging, enlightening, and um, really great class discussion, whether they be synchronous or asynchronous.